Women try to control the relationship to the extreme. They don't even realize how off-putting that is. They are in a weird position because maybe she's trying to shit test him a little bit.
It's like trying to prove that you're a big shot. A lot of women have this mindset today, and it only proves that you're immature.
And I think that starts in childhood, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have emotionally mature parents. So they learn typically how to deal with their emotions in the wrong ways that their parents do,
right,
without even realizing it.
Let's jump into it.
So again, it was inspired by some of the episodes we've been watching, specifically the one where I think the guy's name is Tim and I think the girl's name is Alex.
Okay.
I think. Basically the one with the guy who was like, I have these boundaries and if you cross them, you know, that's not going to be good. And then obviously she crossed the boundary and there's an episode of them like having this conversation about what happened without actually telling us. And just watching her kind of made me think about how women like try to control the relationship to the extreme.
Yeah.
And how they don't even realize how off-putting that is, how like they wouldn't like the same thing back to them. Like it just really kind of put into perspective like the extreme that women should really avoid getting to. And again, we'll talk more about this in the whole episode. I get why they get to that level. I understand, but that doesn't mean that it's the right way to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know really where to dive in first.
Maybe
I'll start by talking about like what she was doing, right? So
yeah, okay, yeah. Let's talk about it.
She constantly criticized this guy to the point where I'm like, she does not like him. Like to the point where, he was like blowing it off. And like you said, he did it in the right way. Like he wasn't aggressive or anything towards her about it. He was just like, my dog, you know, or like, I like this hat. And she would just be like, don't ever say that again. Or like, don't wear that, or your fashion's horrible or something. And like, even if she's gonna try to come on and say like, I was joking.
Yeah.
The way that she presented it was not joking. And it was also presented in a way of like, my opinion should be the only one that matters, right? Like, even if you like this hat, I think it's ugly, so you shouldn't get this hat.
Right.
And other ways that she was acting like so nonchalant with him, like she's not even really interested in him, but supposedly she like loves this man, or she'll be like, oh, well, we'll see like what happens. And like, I understand in a way, because I think she's trying to protect herself and she's trying to come off, not when she's picking on him, but with the like, we'll see thing, that she's not as invested so she doesn't get her heart broken. But we all know that that doesn't really work. Right, yeah. And they are in a weird position because maybe she's trying to shit test him a little bit because she didn't get to do that in the pods because they're not like really around each other. But at the same time, there's a fine line and there's a way to go about it where you can be maybe shit testing a guy, but not be so controlling or like off-putting with it. Like every interaction that they had, like he was way nicer than I would have been about it. Yeah. Because it was very like abrasive. Yeah. It was very like my way or the highway, like sort of thing. But like you said, and I know, well, when we were talking about it, you said this, and I know you'll probably bring it up as you should, that it's not even my way or the highway, right? It's just like, it's my way. Right. Or I'm going to make this
abuse you.
Right. Or like make this a horrible situation and into an argument and all these other things. So when I was watching that, it just made me realize when women can like really take being like independent and like controlling to this extreme level. That's off-putting. Because like that man is a masculine man that she's with, and he has boundaries, which is so good. You can tell he has self-respect for himself. Sure. And to be honest, their whole time watching their conversation, I was like, good for him, you know? I'm not, like, I'm a girl's girl, but I'm also, whoever's right, I'm going to side with whoever's right. Sure. And she's not right. Like, if anything, she brought this on herself. Right. And I think she somewhat realized that. when he had such strong boundaries and
Yeah.
self-respect for himself.
Yeah.
But like he did the right thing by standing up for himself and being like, no, like you crossed this boundary. I told you about this boundary. He did lay it out for her.
Yeah.
He was like, look, I'm very chill. But if you cross this line with me, there's no going back. And he did the right thing. And he told her, like, I don't think it was manipulative of him to be like, hey, I came in here and this was going to be our last conversation. Because I believed him. Because he backed it up with everything else he said.
Yeah.
So it's like just watching her act that way.
Right.
I was like, a lot of women probably act this way. And I know, especially today with like the masculine women, they act this way.
Sure. Yeah.
So I figured it'd be a good episode because it was off-putting even as a woman to watch. Because I'm like, I don't even think I'd be your friend because I'd feel like if I didn't agree with you, you would treat me poorly or like differently or, you know, have that you're either with me or against me mentality, which even, I think the other girl's name is Monica.
Yeah, the one
that you feel like is the same way. And she is to some degree, but I feel like
I called that one early.
I feel like Alex, though, was like, we blatantly saw it because they got into the, you know, altercation. But
well, yeah. And it's a more common thing. It's like there's this fierce independence. It's like trying to prove that you're a big shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of women have this mindset today. And it only proves that you're immature, right? Because like if you have to prove that you're a big shot, that I've said this many times. If you're like nobody can tell me what to do, that's the most childish, right? Like no one can tell you what to do, so you don't need to say it. Like you just have a boundary. Like when you're saying it, when you're asserting that, and then stomping on other people, and that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because again, like you said. If many of these cases, if the interaction were reversed, it would seem extremely abusive and inappropriate, right? If a man, like a woman tries on a hat and a man's like, oh, you're going to wear that hat? Seriously? That's ugly. Like, or whatever. It's like, don't even put that hat on.
Right.
Like,
he'd be so hated.
Yeah. It would be just, what? Why would you treat your woman like that? You know? But but it's become more commonplace for women to do that and to act that way. And I think a lot of it too is, and I was saying with this girl in particular, a lot of women have not ever been told no, right? And they haven't encountered, a lot of men are weak today, right? We talk about this all the time. A lot of men are feminine. And so they don't have boundaries. They don't, just like in the Love is Blind, the other guy, if I had names, but the bigger guy with the orange hair, with the red hair.
Gosh, I should have looked up his name.
But the Monica is the girl that he's with, but he's just lets her say stuff to him, and he just is apologizing and acting so he doesn't have any kind of boundary. A lot of men are like that, and so a lot of women grow up, or their experience with men is that they haven't encountered a real man. And so they're just used to getting their way all the time. They're used to being the one in charge, being in control, right? And if a guy doesn't like it, they're just gonna hit him with emotional manipulation, in order to okay, if you're not doing what I want you to do, then I'm going to be upset at you and I'm going to treat you this way. I'm going to give you the cold shoulder. I'm going to, be even more bitchy to you, whatever it is.
Right.
And that's the problem. It's a huge
And I think
issue.
that starts in childhood, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have emotionally mature parents. So they learn typically how to deal with their emotions in the wrong ways that their parents do, without even realizing it, right? Like it's very hard for a child to become emotionally intelligent with emotionally unintelligent parents.
Right. Yeah.
They would have to figure it out on their own, right? And I'm not saying that that justifies their behavior, but I do think a lot of people in general learn how to deal with conflict and problems like that in childhood, and they just never reflect on it. And especially women, like, I get where it's confusing and I get where they get to this point, because we are told, be independent, do things for yourself, which in some degree is the right thing to tell women. but they take it too far.
Right.
Like this. And essentially this is like toxic masculinity, like they say, right? Like this is the female version. It's like women who say whatever they want and they don't
Right.
apologize. They don't care whose feelings they hurt.
Right.
They tell people what they want, and if they don't get it, then they manipulate, or they, you know, stonewall, or they blow up. And then they don't know how to, they don't have actual boundaries.
Right.
They're just trying to control the entire situation and be like, I don't need you, while needing somebody.
Right.
Like it's just the extreme version. Like
Yeah.
this is, to me, like toxic. I wouldn't even say femininity, because it's not feminine.
It's just toxic. It's just
Right.
like, I don't agree there's such a thing as toxic masculinity. There's just toxic.
Right.
And that's what it is. Because it looks the same. Right.
Yeah.
It's the exact same behavior. That's why,
That's true.
you know, and that's what it is. But
Yeah, toxic behavior.
yeah. And even I think she had said she was like, I get what I want, or something like that too. One of the responses. And it was just